Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And, Bill, I think it's time to have a conversation about having difficult conversations. And we've just come out of the 4th of July holiday weekend. A lot of people gathered together. I'm sure a lot of people with differing views and opinions. And it seems that this is something that Americans need to learn how to do.
Oh, yes.
Don't you agree? I mean, if we're otherwise we're going to get further divided, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's the further divided America, but it's also in the workplace. If you're not being able to have difficult, conversations with your coworker, or your boss doesn't tell you the truth around stuff, or they start hiding things and they don't tell some people some things and other people other things, and somebody's left out of the loop. These days, the person can go like, I don't think I want to work for this company anymore because they don't have integrity. They're not taking the lead. They don't have a path of, they're not being honest, with me, or they've got a serious character flaw. They can even go in that direction. But it is difficult having being able to speak up and express ourselves. And social media has amplified this, regrettably, is that you get to say something and then there is limited accountability for saying stuff, where, and because of that wide audience of people that you're expressing yourself, you'll find people that support you in that thing that is probably you might not have want to let out of the bag, but all of a sudden I've got how many people like what I just said? It's like, oh no. And we are really, searching for and competing for those likes, those hearts, those moments of affirmation, because whether it's the cell phone being a portable slot machine that we're just getting a dopamine hit from, our opinions can do the same thing. And so social media allows us to express ourselves. It gives an uncontested point of view with limited accountability. And that is a little bit of that crux of what we're getting worse at having difficult conversations, worse at it.
Well, worse at it because I think a lot of people are avoiding it, and social media helps us avoid it, because if I'm just tired of seeing their opinion being amplified in front of me over and over again because I don't agree with that person. I can snooze that person for 30 days and not hear from them.
Yes. Yeah.
And if it gets really bad, like in the case of a relative of mine, regrettably, was so bad, I just okay, I don't want to see any of his posts anymore. I'm not going to unfriend him because he's my relative. I don't want him to see that I've unfriended him, but I've had enough of seeing his messages, so I can just set Facebook to not see any of his posts. So now I'm not having that difficult conversation with someone.
Yeah.
But I'm having a more pleasant experience when I'm on my social media platform, because now I'm seeing fewer of those messages I disagree with. That's probably not very helpful long term.
No, it's not. No, it's as a country that is working on, becoming a more perfect union. The idea is to be working on that, working on becoming a more perfect union. We've got to get a relationship between the foot on the gas and the foot on the brake. The foot on the gas is getting progress and growth and capitalism. Foot on the brake is getting safety and hold values straight and be honest with each other and have family values and be able to have a stable life. Well, it's the balance between those two. You can't crank down on one and you crank up on the other. And in order to do that, you've got to have a difficult conversation. Shall I spend or shall I save? That's a difficult conversation. Just within one sentence, I've encapsulated it. And shall I set a goal? And when I don't reach the goal, how are other people supposed to approach that? Are they supposed to approach it as catastrophic, that I didn't reach my goal? Or are they going to have the difficult conversation? Hey, what are some of the things that are in the way of that goal? How could have that goal been taken place? Was that goal a really good goal or not? How does that goal that you proposed affect the people that don't want to meet that goal with you? So this is a difficult look at how your body just went into reaction to go like, that's a difficult conversation. This group of people does not want to meet that goal. There's nothing we can say or do to make that person meet that goal because it's against whatever that belief is that they're sitting with, whether it's right or wrong or good or bad. They happen to be American and they happen to have a belief and they get to have a choice. And they get to have freedom to execute that, even if it's at the expense of others.
Okay, Bill. So let's put the coronavirus vaccine front and center with that.
That's good.
You just said, okay.
It's a difficult conversation.
It is a difficult conversation. And certainly, I mean, I know people, I mean, I have a very good friend who is also a doctor, who is completely anti-vaccine. And this doctor also treats me and my family, but my family is not anti-vaccine. And so we sometimes have those difficult conversations. It's not a complete stranger. We know each other. So maybe it's not as difficult to have that difficult conversation, but boy, I look at the numbers and I'm seeing, wow, 98% of new coronavirus cases are from people that are not vaccinated. This is in the United States.
Right.
I mean, so people that have the vaccine, while yes, of course, there are some breakthrough infections, it's not 100%, but by and large, if you have the vaccine, you don't have to worry about coronavirus anymore.
You don't have to worry about dying from coronavirus. Notice the small little adjustment.
Yeah.
Because you can still get the virus, but it will not have a catastrophic experience or hospital experience. It reduced the extreme of it. It doesn't mean that it gave you such a boost that you actually repelled it, because we are seeing some of those numbers that there is a repelling that's going on, because otherwise we wouldn't have the numbers drop so quickly. So it's really, really valuable to go like, wait a minute, how many people have died in an area versus, okay, now they're just coming to the hospital and it's not all that bad, so that's really, really, really a significant change and stuff. So your doctor that's the vax guy, the anti-vax guy,
right?
He is latched onto and is leaning on to certain experiences and certain beliefs and certain hypothesis that he has formulated, because he's a scientist, right? So that's what doctors are. So they're just to remind everybody,
right.
So it's like they're meant to think on their feet. They're meant to think out of the box. No, they're not. They are meant to follow the rules. They're meant to follow procedures And with that said, they're also looking for the wellness of their patients, and trying to figure out how to get them better. And if they see pieces of information that come across their desk, they then become open to that new piece of information. So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Now here's the problem. Well, what happens if I'm a patient and I come in and say, doctor, I have a stomach ache, and I saw on a commercial this medicine. Is this medicine good for me or not? Now, who is bringing the medicine to the doctor? The patient is.
Mm-hmm.
What is the patient bringing the medicine from? The TV. Who's putting the thing on the TV? The pharmaceutical company. So it's not, the doctor has already won back from the piece of marketing and branding. And you and I know that there is a range that happens with marketing and branding. Is all you got to do is be 51% true and the buyer will buy. Well, that's not great if that, and then all of a sudden our information is being dripped with third truths, half truths, 3/4 truths, any percentage of truth in between.
I'll tell you, with drugs on television, it's very scary to me when I see any commercial. And if you watch any live television, which I try not to do, especially television around the dinner hour, early evening, these things are covered with pharmaceutical advertisements. And if you actually listen to all of the disclaimers they're saying, it may cause this, it may cause that. Do not use if you are this, do not use if you are that. I'm like, oh my goodness, the benefit of this drug better be really, really good if I'm going to risk all of those things.
Yeah. And somebody that has been having a minor to medium to major pain in that area, or they think it's an issue, but it really is an issue. It's like, wait a minute. The person might say, yeah, I woke up last night. I had a cramp in my calf, and it was really hard. So where's that cramp stuff? Where's that stuff? It's like, you're looking for the thing because you don't want to have that really painful experience again. So maybe if I take this, look, I've taken this before I went to bed and I don't get cramps anymore. And that's partially true, but it's also partially going like, you changed your diet a little bit that day and that stopped your cramping, or you didn't work out the way you did, or you were better hydrated and you didn't have cramping, and you have more potassium and you didn't get cramping. I mean, I could go down the list, right? It's like, there's other reasons, but if I create the belief that, so having a difficult conversation allows us to have our point of view, and then having curiosity and tolerance for another person's point of view at the start, because otherwise you're doing social media and booting people off. Like you were saying, you're kicking them out and going like, nah, I'm going to block that person, or that person's wrong, or whatever. And so it's really, really, really interesting to see how truth works, and
well, and what's amazing is it really, what's happening, I think is really captured well. What's happening in America, at least, is captured well by this quote. And you have a little meme of a quote from George Orwell. Bill, do you want to share that?
Yeah. It says, further a society drifts from truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. George Orwell. So famous book, 1984, was all about what do you do with truth, and how do you, do truth in the way that one person would like truth to be done, exercises to be done this way, as well as other things. And we're going to watch you through your TV, which is essentially the internet coming things, or any one of 5 talking devices I have in my house that I can ask any question I want, and I can get a form of truth. Now, notice my skepticism is sitting right there. I can get a form of truth by asking any of the devices. I'm a little scared to mention their names, so they'll start talking at me because they're listening. They're listening for a familiar word that I'm saying is like, what would you like me to research? And they're sitting waiting now because I use the word research. So and so we want to get a hold of a truth perspective, which is we start with the information we have and the wisdom, knowledge, and experience up to this. But Tom, you and I both know, just within the short amount of time, there are 90 things on our cell phone that you and I, as older guys, don't know how to use, where our kids do. Therefore, they're holding a greater truth and efficiency and effectiveness in using the phone. We are not. And that's the truth. We could get better at skill at that, but not without trying to get on the gerbil wheel and trying to run after our own personal and professional development, our personal growth. And we've got to remain curious and keep adjusting our perspective, or otherwise we're not able to have difficult conversations with people.
Well, and it seems this, because, and I think George Orwell's quote is very, I don't know how to use the right word, but I think he's right, that the more society drifts from truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. Well, we're seeing this in social media, and social media feeds into it. If you hate those who speak a certain truth, you can silence them and not hear them. That's the opposite of having a difficult conversation, to try to gain perspective, understand each other, and try to, move forward together as Americans in this country. Which, we're all here. We have to live with each other, right? I mean, so as much as some people might say, oh, if this person gets elected, I'm going to move to Canada. Okay, well, it is a choice, but I mean, half of America isn't going to move to Canada every 4 years with a new. I mean, most of us, we are going to remain here, right?
See, in my business practice, in my mediation practice, in my training and facilitation of companies and training and facilitation of government agencies, I run into this thing all the time, which is, how are we able to open our mouth and have some space for maybe stepping in the poop a little bit and not going to be, really nailed for it. It's like, this is just an idea, or this is just a thought I'm having, and don't jump down my throat too early on this. You may want to think about what the second or the third thing is underneath that. So what happens is, when the reason why the freedom of speech is so important to us as a country and as human beings is, you don't want people to shut up. As soon as they shut up, what happens is that entire conversation goes underground. I want to know where the dangerous people are. So the more open communication I get, the better off it is, because I want to know where my dangerous person, the people that are going to do harm to others, I want to know where they are. And so I want social media to be open and expressive. The thing that's missing that I would like to prefer and like to see is curiosity and empathy for the people that are saying junky things. Yeah, I'm guessing you're really mad and you'd like fairness and health inside the community. You'd like equal protection under the law. You would like fairness in the court system. I want all that stuff above the board, because as soon as you don't get that, you get, black market communication, which is, what the way a mob works. I'm going to make deals, create loyalty, so you won't tell bad things about me, and you won't go to court. So it goes under if you can't go get it. And the problem is, we've got to really watch and call out that kind of narrative that is doing that, because otherwise it will not go as well.
And it's interesting that we're doing this to ourselves. I mean, freedom of speech, the whole idea of the freedom of speech in our Constitution, the whole point of freedom of speech in our Constitution is freedom of speech without repercussion from the government. It's the idea that you can speak out against your government without fear of being put in jail as a dissenter over whatever is happening. And it seems that not only, today we don't have to worry about that kind of freedom of speech in America, or being, jailed because of your beliefs or what you say by our government, but we do have to worry about being silenced on social media, and about how others are going to perceive us, or we're tuning each other out. The big divide in America, each side, we're tuning each other out, only wanting to hear things that reinforce our beliefs because that makes us feel good.
So I really feel appreciative of you bringing that truth forward. It's like freedom of speech is about the speaking up against government leadership. But you and I both have worked at jobs that it's not a government, it's a private job, and the owner might not like what we say and think, well, we can't promote him because he said or did this thing. Now, that's problematic, because what the owner doesn't know, if he doesn't allow a healthy discussion with both ideas and bad news, I've discovered something. Well, I'm not going to say anything, because if I say something, then I'm not going to get promoted. That's problematic.
It is problematic, but it's all also perfectly legal. There's nothing that says you get freedom of speech in your job and that you're protected from, retribution or whatever. No, it doesn't work that way.
And good owners can manage, skilled owners, the ones that I trained, can manage can manage a voice of dissent. They can manage a voice of opposition. They can accept what the person's saying and then gently shift it to something that everybody can feel good about, be in relationship, and be able to accept that there's differing point of views. This might be a good idea, but listen, the way you're expressing yourself is not as helpful as this other way of expressing yourself. And I'm not trying to make people behave. I'm trying to get people to communicate, to make sure that there's greater collaboration and cooperation, that there's greater healthy, difficult communications. Two things there: healthy, difficult communications. You got to get the healthy part in front of it, which is, the argument about taxes. It's got to be healthy. And, this is the good reason why it's this percent, and this is the good reason why it's this percent. This is the good reason why it's built this way, and this is a good reason why we need to change it to that way. I mean, that's a healthy debate over something that's really valuable. Not, I'm right, you're wrong, shut up. I mean, that's not healthy for us. And regrettably, we still have that going on, So
we have it going on a lot. I mean, and let's come back to the coronavirus vaccine for a minute. We started with that being a difficult conversation, and it is one of those difficult conversations I think people are having across America today. But I'm also seeing the media, it's not very helpful in in fostering healthy conversations. For example, the Biden administration put out the goal of having 70% of Americans who, are 70% of Americans receive at least one dose of the coronavirus vaccine by July 4th. And that was a very good goal, after especially the early goal of getting 100 million Americans vaccinated was achieved so quickly. The administration said, all right, let's raise the bar. This is the road to recovery. This is how we're going to get past this thing. Let's set a high goal, 70% by July 4th.
Right.
And despite all best efforts, didn't make that goal.
Right.
And that's all that I was hearing and seeing in the media in the last week, Bill. I don't know about you, but this is the message being amplified. Biden administration misses their coronavirus vaccine goal. And you'd think, oh my gosh, that's amplified so much. They must have missed it by a mile. I mean, it must have been a lot. I mean, that's to me the emphasis being put on it in the media.
Sure.
And then when I really, and they weren't saying it. It's like, are you guys burying the lead? How bad did they miss it? Nobody was saying that. So I had to really dig and research. Turns out they missed it by 3%, 67%. Oh, and how much longer is it going to take to get there? I was thinking, wow, is it going to take months? How long is it slowed down that much? Like, well, no, about 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll have reached that 70% goal. So you're telling me the media is amplifying this message that Biden administration missed their coronavirus vaccination goal, and we're going to be there in a couple of weeks, and it was only by 3%. I mean, I got
to get a headline to get a click. I've got to point out the thing, and the brain kind of works that way, Tom. It really responds better to negative messages than it does to positive messages. I mean, it's like, wow, we did it. It's like, great, I don't have to worry about it. No, it's better that they make it that they almost got it. It's it's where we were just about there. See, if the brain says you hit your goal, well, then I don't have to go get vaccinated. You got your 70% goal.
That's a really good point, Bill.
It's not, and it's the people are satisfied when I finish something off, but then all of a sudden we're also psychologically flat-footed. You know this too. When we finish a project at work, now we can rest a little bit. All of a sudden, 3 weeks later, I go like, what the hell did I do over the last 3 weeks? I got so much done before when I had the goal that I hit this thing. Why can't I finish that little small piece at the end of it that I didn't finish it? It's been, weeks, months, and all I had to do was that little thing to finish it, but I didn't. Why? Because I was done. Because I got it up. Because it worked perfectly. It came to conclusion, and because my brain finished it, it wasn't done, but my brain psychologically finished it and closed it off as being so. There's no further action needed to do it. There's no pressure. There's no adrenaline. There's no working. So the media amplification, whether it's on purpose, or if they're just being accurate, they set a goal, they didn't do it. But if it was on purpose, who's going to blame that? If you're trying to motivate a couple other people to be a part, well, I guess it's time for me to get vaccinated. Yes, it's time for me to get my second shot, and there's still more people trickling in, and then we're going to get to our 70%. And, and that's the thing that is for all of us to have awareness and consciousness of, is that our own psychology we've got to watch how we talk to ourselves. And then we can be obviously, people can be easily influenced to get in the silo, only listen to certain information and get stuck in those certain information, whether it's Alex Jones or Tucker Carlson. It's hard to tell the difference between the two of them because they're amplifying in the same way. Not is that there's something wrong with them or their messages. It's the way they amplify is to engage, not to bring to a resolution of truth. They're not interested in that. It's not important. They'll talk that like they're talking truth, but really they're talking in order to build loyalty and connection with their program, that they're the keeper of real information and they're convinced of it. It's like, how do you convinced of it? I have doubts and skepticisms about many things that I have in my consciousness, but that allows me to adjust my perspective, maintain curiosity, provide support to people in conflict, right? So it's, I mean, that's the, and have a wonderful sales conversation with somebody.
Yeah, I agree with that. I almost wonder if the Biden administration would have made a mistake by setting a goal of 65% by July 1st and July 4th and beating it, because the media wouldn't be talking about it so much. It almost makes more sense to have a goal you're not going to meet. And if I were Jen Psaki in the press corps right now or through the administration, I would probably say, hey, you're right. We missed it by 3%. But had we achieved that goal, you guys wouldn't be talking about it right now. So I think we did the right thing. I mean, can you imagine if she flipped it on him like that?
No, yeah, right.
I love the expression on your face, Bill. Guys, you got to see the video just to see Bill smile as I said that.
That's so funny. That is really a funny flip. I think talking about the feeling of disappointment next to the feeling of optimism would have also been helpful in her narrative. Yeah, we do feel disappointment that we didn't hit the 70% because we did set a lofty goal for ourselves. See, notice I'm making the turn with the word lofty. And we did set the bar a bit high. At the same time, we really feel optimistic and joyous that we are able to reach that.
And make such progress in a short period of time. Yeah.
And I feel curious. I'm going to be Jen Psaki for a second. I feel curious when we're going to hit the 80% mark. Now, all of a sudden, she set the new bar.
She set a vision and a goal, right?
And a goal and created uncertainty.
Oh.
When will we see the dopamine human beings chase dopamine around like it's candy? I mean, obviously our body would love to get a serotonin wants to stay in that space. And so it's going to pursue our cell phone because it rings and buzzes and things. It's going to look at email because that's what it's going to look at, Facebook or LinkedIn or what, for pieces of information to serve knowledge. And it's going to look at videos and news clips because it wants to get the latest hit. And it's got to have some kind of reward in the messaging to get us to come in. I mean, we got to be baited a bit. Human beings, we become slothy pretty quickly sitting on the TV. We kind of do. So
yeah, you're right. So you know what? I love that. The administration could learn something from the marketer in chief, former President Trump.
That's right.
And because the media would probably latch on to, if Jen Psaki said that, I feel curious about when we're going to 80%, they would say, so is that your new goal? When are you going to achieve that goal? When is the president going to achieve that goal? Well, we'll see what happens.
See what happens.
That's what she needs to say, right?
That's what she needs to say. And all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. It's like, former President Trump was excellent at putting the three major narratives together: present a reward, create anticipation, create uncertainty about it, create a reward, and anticipation, create uncertainty. Those are sales and marketing narrative. They are not production narratives. They are not policy narratives. They are not getting anything completed narratives. You don't get stuff done by just talking about those three things. That goes to the people that need to do those things. If you're building a building, well, then it's just the construction people and all the ones that are putting up the new thing. Boy, and then the marketer in chief just goes, I can't wait till this building's open. It's really going to be wonderful. It's going to have some great features to it. People are going to really like this experience about being in this building. It's going to be the best building ever. All the marketer in chief gets to stay in his lane. The challenge is that how do we have the difficult conversation that's needed in government? Because government is about a series of difficult conversations. Are we going to meet the needs of the few? Are we going to meet the needs of the many? Are we going to go after supporting a country by getting involved in their war? Or are we going to stay back and let them solve their own conflict? Are we going to sell them weapons? Are we not going to sell them weapons? Are we going to see? Those are difficult conversations, and you got to be ready to stay in the fire in order to do it, as well as being compassionate to the person who just lost out on their point of view. And then it goes better. So there's a bit more. It'll be interesting to see where the administration goes next in their messaging. Do they stay more optimistic? Do they, kind of pump their foot on the brakes a little bit and say to themselves, hey, this is what the next marker is for COVID. This is the next thing. Do they turn their attention away from COVID? Not fully, but do they turn it away and say full out press on other forms of infrastructure, full out press on expanding the economy on X, Y, and Z? Because the current economy has got to keep pace and start changing with the economy the way China's been changing. They've been taking leaps and bounds. The estimation 15 years ago is that, it'll take them X amount to catch up. Nope. that was not a true thought 15 years ago. Oh my gosh, they're right there, because they're starting to, take certain initiatives. Their deal making skills is one-sided, but they've got, but if they provided a little bit more collaboration and cooperation, things could have much better with some of the initiatives they took. So anyway, but there's more difficult communications that you and I are going to get ourselves into, Tom. That's for sure.
I'm sure there are, and we need to not avoid it. I think that's the big message here. Avoiding it is going to prolong our issues, and we need to step into it and have those difficult conversations. And it's more a matter of learning how to have those difficult conversations, which, Bill, if anybody is wondering about, you certainly know how to advise them how to do that.
Absolutely. If anyone needs support with moving through difficult communications, please reach out and we will provide support to get you through those conversations. That's for sure.
Okay, Bill. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.